Receipts and expense reporting trends. There's an interesting trend revolving around these two issues, and it's not driven by tax reporting requirements, but rather corporate distrust of employees. Welcome to Accounts Payable Soundbites, the program where we explain simple and complex accounts payable issues in short, concise soundbites. I'm Mary Schaefer, founder of AP Now, and today we're going to talk about receipts and expense reports. I want to start off with just briefly going over the IRS requirements. The IRS requires that you have a receipt for every expenditure over $75. Now, what I find especially interesting about this requirement is that the IRS raised the level to $75 in 1995, and very few companies have followed. Now, you can do the math just as easily as I can, and you can realize that 1995 was 27 years ago, and most companies have not followed. In fact, they've done something completely different. Now, just an FYI, and we're going to talk a little bit more about it towards the end of this video, currently the IRS does not require the detailed meal receipt. Okay, so what's going on? Why did most companies not follow the IRS? Well, there's the little talked about what I call the 2495 problem. Most companies, if you went back a number of years, like 10 years, had a receipt requirement of $25. And what these companies found over and over again, if they did some data analytics, is that there was a preponderance of meals put in for $24.95, $24.50, something along that nature, a lot more than the analytics would imply. Now think about it. You're on a business trip, you go out for a meal, and maybe you just go to McDonald's, you're tired, you grab a burger, you go back to your room, you watch a movie and you go to bed. And so you've got a receipt for $8.95, but your company will give you up to $25 for that meal. So many people were throwing the receipt out, and instead of reporting the McDonald's meal, just reporting that they had spent $24.95 for dinner and, making a few bucks on that. Okay, so, companies figured that out. They did some data analytics, and needless to say, they weren't real happy about it. Now, before I get to the trends and predictions, which I think are kind of interesting, I'd like to invite you to subscribe. It's free, completely private, and you can unsubscribe at any time you want. And by ringing that bell next to the subscribe button on YouTube, you'll be notified when we post new content, which we're doing now on Tuesdays and Thursdays when it comes to accounts payable content. And at least for the foreseeable future, we're going to be posting Wordle videos on Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. And by the way, you don't need to have a YouTube account to subscribe. You can subscribe if you have a Gmail account. Okay, so the two trends. Number one, there is a move towards getting all receipts regardless of the dollar amount. I've done a few talks recently online to various different groups about expense reporting. And when we ask questions, there have been a preponderance of attendees who are getting all receipts. In one group recently, there were over 200 people listening. And when we asked the question, only 3% had matched the IRS level of $75, with almost 3/4 getting all receipts. Okay. Now, when we talk about getting all receipts, you may be sitting there thinking, Mary, what are you talking about? We're overworked as it is. Just because you get all the receipts doesn't mean you have to check them all. You can spot check. Also, almost 3/4 are now requiring the detailed meal receipt, and half of those are requiring the detailed meal receipt regardless of how much money was spent on the meal, while the remainder were requiring that you get the meal receipt only if you were over whatever the receipt requirement was. So prediction, I believe in fairly short order, very short order, getting all receipts plus the detailed meal receipt will become a standard industry practice. And remember, spot checking, just because you get all those receipts doesn't mean you have to look at every single one. Now, if you're wondering why this focus is on, and instead of just trusting employees, you're not alone. In soundbite number 55, we discuss questionable employee expense reporting habits and how that could cost your company dearly. And we'll have a link to it in the show notes, and on YouTube, a link will appear momentarily to the left. As always, We appreciate your comments, your thumbs up, your subscribes, and your shares. They're always appreciated.